So when it comes to setting up a limited company, here are some things that you should bear in mind. You can use Company's House to do it yourself, or a third-party website. There are many around there. If you simply Google company incorporation, the direct cost of doing it at Company's House, I think it's about £12, or alternatively, you can get an accountant to do it, and their charge may be £100 upwards. Now, here are the key things that people always get wrong when it comes to setting up the company themselves. So do make sure you've got a pen and paper ready. So it's going to ask you the number of shares you want to put when setting the company up. You should keep this as low as possible. So quite often it might be £1 or £10. Certainly don't put a high number, because essentially what this means is that you've got more of these shares. So if you've got more shares at a higher nominal value, or if it's £1, that's money you have to put into the company. And the second tip mirrors off the first one, in that do not put a high number, high pound value per share. So keep it at £1, keep it simple, and maybe have £1 or £10 share capital, depending on what you want to achieve. For instance, if you were to put £1,000 share capital, you would actually have to put that money into the company in exchange for the shares. Whereas a better way of doing it would be to keep that share capital as low as possible, and then the rest of the money can go in as a director's loan, which you can charge interest on, as we'll run through later on. It's going to ask you whether you want to use the default articles of association. And if you are setting up a company by yourself or with your partner, then that's absolutely fine to do so. There's no reason to get bespoke articles drafted. Another question we ask is, what SIC code should I use? People often kind of really stress about this and worry about getting this wrong. Whereas my advice to you is it's not that important. The reason for this is because they can be changed within 5 minutes to Company's House. It's very easy to do so. And the changes only take a couple of hours to update and show on the website. But what SIC codes are actually used for? So they might be used as evidence to persuade HMRC that your company is trading rather than an investment. So if you've got development of residential properties, one of your SIC codes, it might be a very, very small piece of the pie that you try to put to HMRC if you want to try and claim some kind of relief that's only available for a trading business, such as previous entrepreneurs relief or rollover relief, something along those lines. But the one that is going to impact most people is just lenders are going to want to see a certain SIC code. This is so that they can see that the company is not trading, there's no other risks involved, that it's just a fresh SPV, which will be used for buying and holding property. So here are some of the main SIC codes. So we've got 68100, which is buying, selling of own real estate. So this is what you do if you were flipping. Then we've also got 68209. So this is the most common SIC code when it comes to holding property, if you're a property investor doing BRI, any of those strategies. And 68320, which is what you might use if you're doing rent to SA and running your company that way. There are a couple of other SIC codes that might apply, but these are the main ones here. This is what you'll see. So when you go to Company's House, if you simply Google Incorporate Limited Company, this is the page you want to start with. So it's register your company. These are the bits of information you'll need. It costs £12 and you can pay via debit, credit card or PayPal. And your company is usually registered in 24 hours. So it's just a case of when you get to that page, register now. It'll ask you a couple of questions which are relatively straightforward. The only complicated ones are around the number of shares, the nominal value, the article of association, which you've just been through. So now you know the best way to approach those. So a lot of people, when they actually set their company up, they're not aware of the amount of information that's in the public domain. So with Company's House, here's a company that we've just pulled off for the purposes of this presentation. And if you're setting your company up yourself, it's something to be mindful of, that your registered office address that you put for your company, that is available on Company's House. So if you put your home address, sort of quite a few questions going through. Yeah, with a slide deck, yeah, perfect, that's fine, because it will be. How do we get rid of that? Perfect. Yeah, so we've got the registered office address here. So if you are setting up your company yourself, look to get your registered office. Look to see if your accountant will allow you to use their registered office, simply because you don't want people going onto Company's House. They can Google your name and find out where you live. So you can also see here, we've got incorporated on 9th of October 2007. So as you mentioned previously, your year end is 12 months up to the end of the month. upon which we incorporated it. So we can see over here on the left there, we've got their next accounts made up to 31st of October 2019 are due 9 months after that. So that's all relatively straightforward. And then lastly, the SIC code 68209, other letting and operating of owned or leased real estate. That's the only place your SIC code appears. And if you were to update that, that one would be overwritten, and there would be no history of any previous SIC codes. Next, we're going to look at the filing history tab. So you can see here that all of the documents as a PDF which have been submitted to Companies House. Confirmation statements. This is basically where you confirm the shareholders. We've also got the total exempt accounts. So these are the accounts that have been prepared and submitted to Companies House. So this, on the next slide, we've actually just clicked on 8th of July, total exempt full accounts. And this is what they look like. These are if this was your company, all of this is available publicly. So you can see here the balance sheet, the fixed assets, tangible assets. So you can see there, tangible assets, note 2, £780,000. We just skip to the next slide briefly. You actually see note 2, tangible fixed assets, that company has £780,000 of investment properties. If you also scroll down a bit, so you've got creditors due in 1 year, that's fine. Another big one to look out for is if we go to creditors, amounts due falling after more than 1 year. So we've got note 4 there for £392,000. Note 4, bank loans. So they're going to be mortgages that are secured on that property or properties. And then lastly, we've also got shareholders funds, which is basically the equity. So you've got all of your assets, less your liabilities, all of your assets, properties and cash, less your liabilities, which will be bank mortgages, other loans. And then broadly, once all of that has been added up, you can see here the company itself is worth £196,000. So this is these are the notes. All of these form part of the accounts which get filed at Companies House. One thing to note is that unless you're a very, very large company, your profit and loss won't show, just your balance sheet and the notes. We've also got a people tab. So what this shows is the offices. So this will show the directors and any company secretaries the company has, and persons who have significant control. So broadly, a person of significant control is any shareholder with more than 25% of the shares in the company. So you can see here, Mr. Andreas, he has 75% or more. So it doesn't actually tell you whether they've got 100%. It does it in 25% bandings. So less than 25%, they won't show on the person of significant control register. If it's 25% or 50%, it will show it there, 50 to 75%, and then 75% or more. We can also see the charges register here as well. So where they've taken out a loan and it's secured on a property, so you can see here, 52 Abbots Hall Avenue, the lender will put a charge over the property, which basically means that they can't sell it without that charge first being satisfied. So if you are purchasing property or doing due diligence on a potential investor, JV partner, always look at them on Companies House. If they claim that they've got loads of properties with loads of charges, you can go straight to Companies House and see it firsthand.